We're on Samach Gimel Amud Aleph by the two dots, about 9, 10 lines up from the bottom. We're learning as Schus for Shlema Filan Chaya Baserach. So the Gemara. We quote from the Mishnah. Ba'ala. It's not from the Mishnah. It's actually from the Brisa that we had said before. Ba'ala v'akach nasan lo'esnena mutter. We said we were brought in the. We were talking about the Be'er of Yanai, which we'll get back to soon. The Be'er of Yanai had said that if someone gives, they wanted to help out the poor people, so they would take their tvua at the end of the Shemitah year, borrow it from them, and then pay them back. They would eat it up before it had to be destroyed, and then they would pay them back later with other food. So we had said that what is given in exchange for Shemitah after the Shemitah already is gone doesn't have a din that it was a chalipin for the Shemitah, and it doesn't get the same rules of Shemitah that it can't be exchanged, it can't be sold. So we had brought Esnan as a raya to this, and from the price of Esnan, we had said if someone, Esnan is, the din of an Esnan is if someone hires the services of a Zaina, if he pays, let's say the Brisa uses the example of a tle, he gives a lamb in exchange for her services, that lamb is, from then on, asur l'gvaya, can't be used as a carbon. But we said, if a person, in hiring the services of a Zaina, he's ba'ala first, and afterwards he gives her the Esnan, he gives her the payment, the tle, then that tle is mutter because it's not a chalipin. He created a debt, and now he just paid back the debt, but the debt, it's not an exchange directly for the services, and therefore it doesn't get the din of a Esnan, which is asa l'gvaya, asa as a carbon. Zaktimar v'ramini. We have a price that says exactly the opposite. If someone was ba on a zaina, and afterwards he pays her, even 3 years later, what's given in exchange for the znus is asur l'gvaya, can't be given as a carbon. This is precisely the opposite of the price over here. When he said, I want the man who went to the Zaina, he said, I want you to be born you, and in exchange I'll give you this lamb standing right here. So then she's kind of that tle, even though he doesn't hand it over to her for another 3 years, it's also as a chlipin because he gave it to her right away. He said, he designated this tle is supposed to be in exchange for these nus. And Hada Amalis Bali b'tle stam. He didn't say a particular tle. He said, I'll pay you a tle. And then he waited and he paid her later. That tle is not considered to be a chalipin for the znus, and therefore it doesn't get the din of a esna. In fact, the Gemara, what does it make a difference if he designated, he said, I'm going to pay you with this one, but he didn't give it to her? Hamachasa Mashicha. She wasn't kind it then, she's kind it later. So even if he said, this is the one that you should, this is the one that I'm going to pay you with, but he didn't do so. And as we know, you can't be kind to anything without Mashiach. All he did was point at it and say, I'm going to someday pay you with it, but he didn't do so. So it's not. How is it a chalipin for the Maisa's nus? It only happened later. We're talking about a Zaina avodas kechavim. She's not Jewish. The loy kanya b'mashicha. It sounds like the loy kanya mashicha. It sounds like it's a negative that avodas kechavim. It's harder to be kind. It's not kind of mashicha. But when it's not kanya mashicha, it means it's kind of with the exchange. So even when he says that I'm going to give you this tle in exchange for the Maisa Bia. So since there was already the Maisa Bia, and that's what's being paid for the tle, so it's as if she's kind it right away. It doesn't make a difference when he hands it over to her. As soon as she agrees to it, that makes it. That's based because the Maisa B is the payment. So as if she handed over the money, and then it becomes hers immediately. So that's one way of answering the stira of the Bryce. We're talking about a Zani Yisraelis who is kind of a Mashiach, does require Mashiach. If so, what does it help that he says that I want you to use this tle? Kind of koi bechatzera, where the tle is in a chatzah. So since the tle is in a chatzah, it doesn't have to be bedafka Mashiach. There are other ways of being kindness. So one way you could be kindness with a kinyan chatzah. So she's kind of right away, even before the Mashiach. Why are we calling it that he was Ba'alev Achakach Nasanla? It's already hers. It's hers right away. It's right there. There's no more Nesina for him to do. It's already in his Rishus. We're not talking about where he said, I want you to be kind of this tle right here in exchange for the bia. What he said rather was, I owe you money, but I'm making this tle that's standing here and that's in your rishus. I want it to be a basically the collateral that I'm going to pay back the money. What does that mean? If I'll pay you, then I'll pay you the money, and the money is yours, and we don't have to worry about this lamb. But if not, I want this to be your collateral, and if I don't pay you, then you get it at that time. So it's in the chutzner, so it could be kaina. If later on it turns out he doesn't pay her, then she'll have been kaina it with a kinyan chutzner at the time. But we call it that it was ba'alev akach nasanla because it first became hers retroactively when he later on neglected to pay the money. Then the lien kicks in and he takes the tle. So it's just a matter of really a nomenclature of what we call it, that we call it nasanla ba'alev akach nasanla. But really, he did give it to her at that time immediately. It just took a while till it became clear that what was happening. So therefore, the Brisa called it ba'alev akach nasanla. Okay, now we're going back to the Be'er of Yanai. Right, again, the Be'er of Yanai was the case where they gave shvius to poor people. I'm sorry, they didn't bug tay. They took shvius from poor people. That the Yom Beer was fast approaching, and the poor people were going to be left without what to eat. So they said, "Listen, we'll take it from you now, and we'll pay you next year. We'll pay you back." And then you'll have what to eat after Shvius instead of just losing this for nothing. When next year, when you're going to again need food, we'll be able to pay you back. Most of Rav Sheshes asked, and we said, so what's the problem? What's the potential problem with that? As we know, Shvius cannot money that's exchanged for Shvius becomes usher. You're not allowed to do business with shvius, and if you exchange your shvius for something, it's usher. So the question is, the chiddush of the Be'er of Yana is, we said, even though they paid that money in exchange for the shvius that they took the previous year, it doesn't get the din of money that was exchanged for shvius, and it's mutter for them to give it to these aniyim. Person can tell his donkey driver or his laborer, he can pay him at the end of the day. Now, these donkey drivers and these laborers were not the highest class people, so they were choshesh, as we're going to see, to do all sorts of nefarious things with the money that they were paid. But nevertheless, it's not the problem of the boss. He can pay them, and he says, here's your money, go do with it as you please. Even though they're likely gonna buy shvius with it, and they're gonna buy yayin nesach with it. Not his problem. They're doing it after he paid them. He has nothing to do with their shenanigans. So we're not worried about that they're going to use the money that they got to buy shvius, which one you're not allowed to buy shvius. We're not worried that they're going to buy food that didn't have meiser taken off of it. Trumas and meisers. And we're not concerned they're going to use it. We are concerned that they're going to do it, but it's not. He's not achroi for their evil doings. However, if he says, "Go ahead, go to the store, go to these people that you know, the purveyors of different types of prohibited items, go and eat." Vani pereya, go get food and eat, go get wine and drink, and I'll pay back to the person that you bought it from. In that case, the employer is on the hook for knowing, he knows that these guys are low-class guys, and now he's going to be paying back the shopkeeper for what they consumed of forbidden different types of forbidden foods. Amaki kapara, the me'isa kapara. So you see, so this is l'chayra. One of the things we said is legabi shmita, right? That he's going to the money that he's giving to pay for the food that they gave is going to have a din shvius on it, which you're not allowed to use to pay. You can't use shvius money to pay for something. If the shvius transfers to the money that they got shvius. Shvius is not ba'etzem also to eat, but you can't buy shvius. So they ate shvius, and now he's paying for it. He paid the money goes, the iser goes onto the chiyuvim of shvius goes onto the money, and he can't use that to pay the storekeeper who gave it to them. So hachanami ki kapara de meisura kapara. So we should have the same problem, the Be'er of Yanai, that when they later on in the 8th year they pay the aniyim back for the shvius that they took. Now the money, the din of shvius went on to the money that's being given in exchange for that shvius, and you can't use that to pay them back. Tigger of Chizda, sort of Chizda said no. By the Chemini, there's a different reason why it's also. It's not because the Isser of Shvius goes on to the money. It's B'Chemini Hamakifa. We're talking about, this is a long-standing relationship that he has, that he has with the storekeeper, with the guy who's giving them the food, where he always has a deal. He's basically the company store. And it's known that it's a deal that whenever he has employees, they can come into the store, take what they want, and they know, and the storekeeper knows that the boss is going to pay him back for it. They're mishtavidlei. So therefore, as soon as they take something from the store, immediately the boss is on the hook for it. The kivin, the urchel akufi, kanile dina gabe. So therefore, since as soon as they sell it, that's a chalipit. The money that he's going to give, since it's meshubed right away as soon as they take, so therefore it's as if there was a direct exchange for the food that they were given. The crux of the issue by the Be'er of Yanai is whether what it comes down to is whether there can be a chalipin, whether it's considered to be an exchange of food for money, even though the food is not around. So over here, we seem to see that even though the employees took food and ate it up, and later on the boss pays the storekeeper for that food, even so we're concerned that the money that's being given got the din of shvius, even though the shvius was already consumed. So we're saying no, over here it's different because the storekeeper, since he always extends credit, it's as if it was already meshubed, the dinner was meshubed at the time that they took it. So when they ate it, the exchange had already happened before they had eaten it. So by a case of makifoi, then it's a problem. Avol chemeni she'ei makifoi. So Zak Gemara, given the Urchel Afrika, kani leiv dina gabe. Since he always does this, the dinner was immediately kind of. In fact, the Gemara, avol chemeni she'ei makifoi my mutter. According to this, what are we saying? We're saying if it wasn't a case where the chemeni regularly extended credit, it was just a regular store that was open to the public, and he said, I'm going to pay you these employees, and then I'm going to go back and send the bill to the owner. But it wasn't that he immediately, contemporaneously with that taking it, he owed the money. He was going to then it was going to start a tab, and then he was going to go get money from him. So saying it would be mutter. Why did we say we start off with the first case that if he paid the employees directly, then they could go eat with it and he doesn't have to worry. We could have said a bigger chiddush. We could have said even in the same case of a storekeeper, if he didn't have a regular line of credit by the storekeeper, that it automatically becomes a shibud as soon as he pays them, then he's allowed to, the storekeeper could give them food as long as he doesn't have a pre-existing relationship that causes a shibud to exist right away. So why do we have to say almost the pashta case of someone who paid his employees and they took their money and did with it what they wanted, which is obviously not his responsibility? Say the bigger chiddush of a chemveni where there's no makifa. V'oid. Chemveni she'ein makifa milay mishabed. Why isn't there a shibud by every chemveni, even if they don't have a pre-existing relationship, that he always extends credit to his employees? Someone says, Reuben says to Shimon, give a mana to Levi, and by giving, if you Shimon give a mana to Levi, you Shimon will be kind of all of my Reuben's nechasim. Lech knei midin arv. He goes and he's kind of with the din of a guarantor. It's not really a guarantor. It's a different. But he's saying basically that you can be when you tell someone, "I'm going to give you money in exchange for giving something to someone else." He's kind of. So why isn't this the same thing? Why isn't this have the same force that even without the previous relationship, since obviously the storekeeper is only giving it to the employees because he expects to get paid back by the boss. So whether it was pre-existing or not, that's the deal now, and he's guaranteeing that he's going to pay for whatever they take. So it should be a kinyan immediately. Ella Amarava. So we say a different teretz. How do we answer the din that we're saying that Rabbi Yochanan said that and Rabbi Yana we weren't. The answer has nothing to do with makifa. That's not the reason why, in the case of the boss giving to the storekeeper, it's asa. Avagav the mishabedle, kiven deloy miyachet shibud deloy mitzah. The reason why, even though he's mishabed himself to pay it, even whether he was makif or not, since he didn't say exactly what's going to be paying it back for, it's not asa. So then what's the problem? Why is it that we say that he can't, it's also for him to give mishum shviyas? Halacha amay chayshish mishum shviyas, halimiyachet shibuda. He didn't say exactly in the Bryce's case, he didn't say what he's going to be paying with, he just says, I'm going to pay. So why is it also? Amar of Papa, we're talking about, this is a much more egregious case. He didn't just have a line of credit with this storekeeper. He had already prepaid. He gave him a dinar and said, when the workers come, give them food. So then so he's directly being exchanging. He has the money, and as soon as he pays the storekeeper, this money is being exchanged for the shvius, so it gets the dinner of shvius. And then
That's a pretty simple ruling. I mean, there's no chiddush in that.
Yeah. So what's the chiddush?
Yeah.
Yes, that's really what the Gemara is going to ask. Well, not really what it's going to ask. Yeah, I mean, I can't answer that question. I don't have. We paid the dinner in advance. Listen, it just telling, but I guess it's telling you the din that we wouldn't have necessarily known that when you pay for something of shvius, it gets kedusha shvius. Not everything gets when you pay for it. Not everything that has a din when you pay for it does the din transpose onto what you paid for it. Right? We had that a couple of blot ago. We went through where you see for each thing which things it's typhus on what was paid for it and which things are not.
But he still hasn't specified that this is going to be for shvius.
No, he didn't specify. You're saying the chiddush is from the fact that he didn't know what they were going to do for it, so maybe since he didn't choose it, are you suggesting that?
Yeah. So it wasn't miyachid.
Well, it's not just that he wasn't miyachid. He didn't. Well, he wasn't miyachid this to pay for that debt, but he didn't know what the debt was going to be for. Right. He left it open. They could have been good guys and gone and bought. They could have gotten anything. They could have gotten a vase for it that's not food at all. They chose to get shvius. So maybe that's the chiddush. Amalei. So he said back to that. Ihachi adatani tzuva ichlu tzuva shu.
Amar Kahana.
Oh, Amar Kahana Risul Shmeitz Kameder of Zid Minardoi. He said, I said over this teretz that it's talking about going shehiktim lo yidina, and he said, Amalei Ihachi adatani tzuva ichlu tzuva shtu vani pareya tzuva ichlu tzuva shu vani mechashav mibai. He wasn't saying, go out and eat, and I'm going to pay. He already paid. He should say, go out and eat, and then use the money that I had already paid. Go make an accounting of how much of the money that I gave should be designated for what you ate. But it shouldn't say Avani Perei. You already paid. You already gave the money. Amalei Tni Tsuvani Mechashav Einachanami. Yeah, that's what it means to say, and you're going to have to say that that's what the Brisa was really saying. Brisa Taka said Ani Mechashav. Rav Ashi gives an alternative teretz. Rav Ashi Amar Kagaysha Notol v'Nosim biyad. He says this is a totally agree. He says it's like the most egregious case. It's talking about where the boss went to the storekeeper and he took the food from him and he gave it to the employees. So it's mamish what Rafal was talking about, where he literally designated specifically this food. So it's as if he bought it himself from the storekeeper. He owes the money now to the storekeeper. He was Moishech. So now he owns it, and then he hands it over to them. He was Moishech the Shvius. Now, this is all very strange to me, just the practicalities of it, because we're talking the whole time about a storekeeper who's being dragged into a Shvius issue by his unlettered and uncouth employees. But now he's himself taking it, like he's buying Shvius. He's taking Shvius with his own hands and buying it. Of course he's chayiv. So I mean, this is the question that you asked, I think, is even stronger over here. What's the chiddush of this? He's literally going and buying Shvius.
It keeps on getting better.
Right. Yeah, but I'm saying it was always the assumption is that he was getting dragged into this, and now he's doing it b'yadayim literally. What is the chiddush, and why? What's the point of this whole complicated case? Amar Rav Yener l'Ravashi Yihachi adhani tzuva ichlu tzuva shsud tlu tluva ichlu tluva shsud. He shouldn't say go out, go to the storekeeper and get it. He's standing right there. he should say, go ahead, take the and eat and drink. Taka, you should switch it. Okay. Let's go a little bit into the next sugya. This is going back to the din of the Mishnah, where we said that there's a din, in addition to the isser of yayin nesach, there's also an isser that we learned, we said at the beginning, which is a takanas chachamim, a knas, that if someone is paid to work for a guy with his yayin nesach, whatever he gets paid is us. Yosef Rav Nachman ve'ula ba'avimi bar papi v'Yosef Rav Chia bar ami gabai v'Yosef yikomi boilu sachroi lishbar b'yayin nesach. If someone was hired not to work with the yayin nesach in a productive way, but the guy was, I don't know, I was going to say like he gets paid like the government pays people to destroy their soybean fields or whatever it is, but they're not being paid. He just decided he just wants to get rid of his yayin. So you hired this guy to destroy the yayin nesach. Mao. Do we say this guy who's being hired, the Jew who's being hired, the guy, it's a good thing he's getting rid of his yayin nesach, but the Yid is happy about the existence of the yayin nesach, because otherwise he wouldn't have a job. So since he's being hired and he's happy that the yayin nesach is there until he destroys it, that's going to have the same knas, that whatever he earns is going to be asur, because he was hired from his perspective to work with yayin nesach. Even though his job is to destroy it, for him it's a job and he's getting paid, and therefore he wants it to exist. Whoever you hire to destroy something that's avodah zara, that's a good thing. So the point of the knas is that we don't want people to work with yayin nesach because they'll come to be lax with it. We're not concerned when his job is to destroy the yayin nesach. Amar Nachman, Yishbar b'tavei lov bracha. Nachman said, of course, he should destroy it, and it's a gewaldige thing. He's doing God's work. Len I'll bring you a raya. Ein oidrin im oivet kechavim b'klayim. One cannot work to aerate the ground around klayim. Klayim is where you have a forbidden mixture of wheat and wine, for example, that were planted together. You can't work to make it better. It's going to cause it to grow more. But you can work together for oivet kechavim as klayim. There's no issur for an oivet kechavim to have klayim, but you can't assist him. So you can't work with him that makes it in a way that makes it better. But you can work if he says, "I want you to uproot these klayim, this mixture of grapes and wheat." K'dei lemute es hatifla, because you're getting rid of the aser kalayim. Savrua, Gemara says. So I would think, Hamani Rabbi Kiva Amar Makayim Kalayim Loika. Now, in order for this to be relevant, it has to be have an equivalent isser. By yayin nesach, we know you're not allowed to be Makayim yayin nesach. You have to get rid of your klayim, your yayin nesach. So we have to first determine, do klayim similarly have an isser that you're not allowed to be Makayim? The Tanya, Hamanachesh v'hamachave b'klayim. If someone prunes and trims, or he not trims, he takes out, menachesh is to prune, he takes out the weeds, and mechapa is he covers the seeds that are already there, causes them to grow, like gets malchus. Kiva says even someone who puts a fence around it, so he's not directly helping it, but he just keeps it the way it is, he's going to be chayiv. My time of the Rekiva. I'm across Sadchal, says Reclaim, Ainli Elizareya. That would only teach you someone who plants, Mekayim Inaim, who causes it directly to grow. Mekayim Inaim, someone who just maintains it in its current state. How do we know he's chayiv? Tamal Loima, Loi Kalayim. If you read the pasuk says it's Chukoisai Tishmer, Chukoisai Loi Tirbu Kalayim, Sadcha Loi Sizra Kalayim, Ubeged Kalayim Shan is Loi Yala Alecha. So the first pasuk said, "As chukoisai tishmeru behemtecha letirba kalayim," and then it says sadcha letizra. So we darshan kalayim sadcha loy, that we take out the comma between kalayim and sadcha, And we say Sad Klaim Sad Chalei, there shouldn't be any Klaim in your Sada. So that's where Rebbe Kiva learns out that you can't be Mekayim Klaim. Shari. So we said this mission is going like Rebbe Kiva, who says you're not allowed to be Mekayim Shlayim. So maybe you shouldn't be allowed to be hired to uproot the Klaim because you're happy that the Klaim are there, because you're at the Yid, you're getting paid by this Ovid Kechavim to uproot it. The Vayla, you're happy that there's Klaim. So you're being over on that is so that you can't be Mekayim Klaim. So no, like Hamani Rabbanhi, it's going to the Rabban. So why did we say we assumed it was going according to Rabbi Kiva? The Gemara didn't explain why we assumed it's going to Rabbi Kiva to make this raya. So now we're going to say what was the reason why we thought it was the Rabbi Kiva, not the Rabban. Why do we give as the example of what you're not allowed to do? To say, I'm sorry, what you can do. We said you're allowed to be oiker. According to Rabban, that there's no problem to be mekayim, even if he was hired to be mekayim it should be mutter. Why do we have to say he was hired to be oiker? So kind of call. Ovid Bechina. We're talking about where the person was not hired. He was asked by the Ovid Kechavim to work. For Yehudi Damar Litin Lehem Matnas Chinim Aser. It's going according to Yehuda, who says you're not allowed to work for a guy Bechinam. It's generally sechanim. You're not allowed to provide services. You're not allowed to give something for free to a guy. So Ba'etzem, it's also for him to work with him. And therefore, the reason why he's allowed to work here is because he's only because he's being Iker, he's doing something good. In fact, if you're saying you could be Iker it because there's a mila to being Iker it, then we're not saying that he benefited from the fact that it was Mekoyim, because otherwise he wouldn't have been able to do it. So Nishma Rebbe Kiva. Lav Amar Yehuda also litin lehamatnas chinam aval lemutei tifla shaper dami. This still proves the principle that there is some value in uprooting the Isser, so we still come to the same conclusion. So there's nothing left to discuss. This is Taka, the final conclusion. Okay, we'll stop over here. Yashakayach.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Great.